Welcome to Enlightened Evolution.
I'm Cay.
And I'm Christina.
We're here to discuss the ebb and flow of our soul's healing and transformation through self-reflection, choosing intentionally, honoring thyself, and following your inner guide.
Thank you for joining this safe space with us. Hello and welcome to Enlightened Evolution. Today we are talking about how to be a friend to someone that is in an abusive relationship. Cay and I have both mentioned before that we've both been in those types of relationships, and we've also been a friend to someone in those types of relationships. So we kind of have a perspective from both sides. We're also going to leave you with some strategies and some resources at the end if you or someone you love is experiencing this type of situation. Before we dive in and get heavy and deep, how are you, Kay?
I'm good. I feel well rested.
Good.
Worked 2 long days, and then I always just go to bed early on the last day that I work and try to wake up early so I can have a productive day starting with this. So yeah, I feel great. How do you feel?
You were up bright and early this morning.
I know. I think I messaged you at like 6. You're probably like, "Oh, okay."
I got up at about 6:30. I slept fine. I don't know. My body does not like to sleep in.
Yeah, mine's gotten used to just being up.
Yeah. When you get up early that many days a week, it's just like your body is not sleeping in. I don't sleep in unless I'm sick.
Mhm.
So I wanted to start us off briefly touching on what I know I needed when I was in an abusive relationship. And I think it's important to notice that there's not just one type of abuse. So, physical abuse is probably the most recognized, domestic violence, but there is emotional abuse, financial abuse. There's so many different layers of abuse, and I feel like, in my experience, physical abuse has gotten so much more weight than the other types, and the other types were harder to recognize. And I think we're going to talk about how to recognize those a little bit. But I know when I was in an abusive relationship, the biggest thing I lacked was self love.
Mhm.
I did not know how to love myself, so I didn't know how to recognize that someone else also wasn't loving me. And I think the biggest thing I needed too was people to be honest with me. So, and it's hard as friends because you want to be supportive of your friend. And especially when it isn't that black and white, like your friend showing up and she has a black eye. But it's the slowly hearing less and less from your friend and hearing things about the relationship that just don't sound right. And it's hard to know when to say something and when to just give space to that person. In my domestic violence situation, I did have a friend that let me, like, on the day he sent me to the hospital, I had a friend that let me come and stay with her that night because I had moved out of my home at 17 and I didn't feel like I could go back there. So she gave me a safe space to be. Then when I went on to marry that person, she backed out of the wedding of being my maid of honor and gave me all these random excuses of, oh, my grandma's sick, I can't come. And none of it made sense. Her and I had been friends since birth. Our parents were friends. And I was devastated. I was like, how could you not, cancel the week before my wedding? It didn't come till after I divorced that person that she finally told me the truth of, I didn't want to be in your wedding because I didn't think you should be marrying that person.
Mhm.
Would I have still married that person had she told me that back then before I married them? Very possible. But if I would have heard that from her, it would have gave me maybe a little bit more perspective. I think I probably still would have married that person. But nobody was saying, hey, this is a bad idea.
Right.
What do you feel like you've needed when you've been in those types of situations?
Well, I definitely needed. See, it's so hard to answer that question from the space I'm at now because now I'm like, well, I wish you would have said something. I wish you would have said, "Hey, you have rose-colored glasses on, bitch, take them off. Look what you're experiencing right now." But while you're in it, because I've been that friend with, having someone that's in an abusive relationship too, and then I've been in an abusive relationship, and I think when I was in my most recent relationship that was abusive, and it wasn't physical abuse, it was complete emotional and psychological abuse, and you were very gentle and kind of you were like you teetered on that fine line of it was always like, "How are you today? How are things today?" And I know that you started hearing from me less and less. And when we would talk about things, your responses were like if something that was bothering me, you you kept it I think you kept it pretty logical, not emotional, and you gave me very direct responses with also validating my feelings, but you never bashed him. You never really bashed him, and I
That's
think
also for a specific reason
right,
because I knew he was
exactly, and
reading all of your messages.
right, right, and I think that was very important too because that comes with a lot of abuse, the control, they look and see
Yes.
everything, they monitor everything. So, I appreciated that, and I do think that you gave me what you could, and you also gave me what I needed because you what I didn't need was for you to take it personal and to get angry with me, and you never did that. You never took it personally that I talked to you less or, you know, couldn't come see you or something, and you never, or if you were coming here, you never took that personal and you never got angry with me, and I think that's what I needed the most is just the understanding of it, because a lot of people because I've been in, had friendships and been in relationships, and I've even in the same relationship I'm referring to, there was a friend that got absolutely upset and enraged with me, and that person insulted me, yelled at me, and did that to me, and that was like, "Oh, okay,
Mm,
well, this friendship's over regardless if this relationship is successful or not." And so
yeah.
that relationship was not successful, and me and that person are still no longer friends. So I think that just understanding what your friend is going through and trying to give them that support, but also I don't know, me being me now, like if you were to see me, like let's say that I enter a new relationship a month from now and this person has these same signs and this person does these same things, are you I mean, me being a good friend, I think I should say, "Hey, you just experienced somebody like this." I think we kind of have that responsibility as a friend to speak up if the pattern keeps continuing. If that's your true friend, say, "Hey, what are you doing?" To take a look at
Yeah.
yourself. It's you can't keep blaming other people for abusing you if you keep entering these same situations.
Yes. And I think that it was a lot easier with you and I because that was my first experience with you being in that type of relationship. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like, oh, you just always keep getting yourself in this. There wasn't as much rage behind it.
You're
I
right.
have friends who are, who I've acted probably the way your other friend did,
Mhm.
who continuously get themselves in the same situation. And you get so frustrated. I listened to Barely Famous podcast with Kale Lowry, and she had one of her longtime friends come on the show and basically be super raw with her. She had been in a very serious domestic violence situation, and her friend told her, like, I had to stop being your friend for a while because there comes a point when you realize you can't do anything, and seeing your friend I think you gotta try to support them as much as you can and try to be there for them, but if it's becoming where it's disturbing your peace so much, there
Mhm.
are times that you do have to remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah, you do. I've had a friend in my life, and I had to remove myself from being their friend as well because if you're gonna choose to be abused every single day and then come to me every single day crying in pain, like, that takes a toll on me. Like, let's come up with a plan for you to get out of this relationship, but then when you stay in it and repeat the cycle over and over again, like, that's detrimental to my spirit. I can't support this. I can help you and help you work through it, but I
Yeah.
can't support your choices and being treated this way. I came up with a lot of signs. If your friend is in starts to enter an abusive relationship, and you can tell me if you think I remember before I go into these signs, I remember when I ended the relationship, I can't remember because we broke up kind of twice. The last time was definitive, but that I did come and see you the first time we broke up, and I had lost like 20, 30 pounds over the year that we were together. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've just deteriorated. And you said to me something along the lines of, I wasn't really so concerned about like your physical appearance versus how just drained you were spiritually. Or you said something along those lines. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, like the light in me just faded. And I think when somebody has that impact on you, if they don't try to feed your spirit to be the highest version of itself and support you and love you and not try to alter you to be used to feed their insecurities, like that's what I experienced. So I think that's what you told me that you recognized in me. And so when your friend becomes not as confident anymore, I had lost my confidence. When you hear constantly that, "Ugh, why do you think that way? That's not very smart. You are so forgetful. That's a stupid way to think." When you hear that constantly over and over, I feel like it's emotional abuse. And they
It
have
is.
unreasonable expectations of their partner to meet their emotional needs because they have a constant insecurity and jealousy. And no matter what you do, they're going to show up every single day as just insecure. You're never going to be enough for them. And it's hard to tell your friend, like, hey, this guy makes you feel like shit. Why are you there every single day? Now, and in this right here, I think when you meet somebody, you have to understand, or, do you share the same values or the same perspectives on, are you comfortable with your partner going for a weekend girls trip alone without you? Or would you rather do those things together? I think that conversation needs to happen very early on in the relationship because I used to feel insecure in relationships so much myself that I could never be like, "Oh yeah, go on a guys weekend trip or something and go without me, like have fun." But now my perspective has changed so much. I think it's really healthy to say, "Hey, I'm going to Christina's for a weekend and we're going to go hang out and do girls time." Like when I came to Georgia to see you, Jordan, wasn't with us the whole entire time. It's like it's healthy to do those things, but I think that needs to be a conversation at the beginning of a relationship. But if your girlfriend stops doing those things that she once did with you, like you already know she loves to do these things with you and she stops doing them, are you going to say that to her? Can you?
And I think there is a fine line there because in the beginning of relationships, I feel like you are all about, your new partner. And so
Mhm.
we got to kind of be a little bit mindful of that and know, like, okay, they want to spend a lot of time together. They're getting to know each other.
Right.
But there is that if there's something they truly enjoyed doing before and their partner is stopping them from doing it. So picking up on, oh, well, he doesn't really want me to do that, or we really would just rather do something together. Those types of things
Yeah.
I think help differentiate the two.
Right. And how how willing is he to come and hang out with you guys? Then I just feel like sometimes when your friend enters an abusive relationship, he's also not willing to come. Like he doesn't want her to go, but he also doesn't want to come himself. And he's not open to her having friendships because their tactic is to isolate and they don't want her having friends. So I experienced that too. Like it would have been an absolute no to come see you, but he also didn't like any of my friends. So he didn't want to come anyways. So
Yeah.
that's hard too. I think that when you're with your friend, she's in a relationship, he's constantly texting her. She can't even go to lunch without her having to send a photo to prove she's there. And, I've experienced that. You have to kind of have a constant, like, every 5-10 minute text message between the 2 of them and constantly checking in, and then all of a sudden, she gets super anxious, and he says something to her that sets her off. It's because he doesn't want her to enjoy anything that doesn't have anything to do with him. He wants to ruin the time together. I'm sorry if you can hear I don't know if you can hear this or not, but Beyoncé is just you can't hear it. She's, like,
Mhm.
scratching my mirror to touch herself. I don't know what her deal is, but it's, like, distracting. Sorry. Stop.
Feeling myself, feeling
Yeah,
myself.
she
She's Beyonce.
she is. And these are things, like, if your friend used to share anything and everything with you, I feel like you and I have a pretty close knit relationship to where if I were to come to you and say the most off the wall personal shit, you would never be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe," like, I feel like it's we've always been pretty open about things that we've experienced in life. And if I feel like I stopped doing that. And I feel like if you have
Yeah,
a friend that stops doing that and then you're like, "Hey girl, I haven't heard from you in like a week or two. How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine. How are you?" Like, that's suspicious behavior, right? From your once friend that used to share anything and everything. And
yeah,
it was like a lot of times it's because they have an unfettered access to their text messaging, their passwords, their social media accounts. And they the abuser does this because they're saying, "Hey, you need to your actions need to prove that you're trustworthy. So I need to go through anything and everything." I think there's not personal boundaries. There's not respect of privacy. And I think like you mentioned earlier, is what you knew I was experiencing. So you couldn't speak your mind because you have to, teeter on like, I don't want to lose her as my friend. I love and care about her, but I also, can't speak my mind. And then just the posting less and less on social media, removing social media accounts altogether. That's another thing
I
that
remember when you did text me. I noticed you were posting less and less on social media, and then you texted me and let me know that you were removing your counts, and I
Mhm.
said, "Does that feel healthy?"
You did. You did ask me that, and gosh, I don't even remember how I responded to that because I knew it was not healthy, and I wanted to
I think you had said, "If I don't have social media, then that's one less thing for him to complain about."
yeah, that sounds about right. And there was there's there was never one there's always something new to complain about. There was always something new I was doing wrong. There was always a new need that I wasn't meeting of his. So, yeah, removing social media didn't help. I even tried to conform to the social media platform he enjoyed using so we could kinda share that together, and the videos I posted weren't loving enough or endearing enough, or he didn't like how I would express my love for him. So that was nothing was ever good enough. It was always something. And, do you remember me making excuses for his behavior? That was another thing that I came up with that friends usually do, is
Yeah.
making excuses. Usually, I don't know, I remember excusing his behavior because he's been hurt and lied to in the past and this and that, and that's probably very much true.
Yeah, and it probably is the root of why he acts the way he does,
Mhm.
but it doesn't excuse how it was affecting you.
Right, and I think that everybody because I there's I've been insecure in relationships and wanted some aspect of control over the person to make myself feel like I could trust them, and
Mhm.
that's something you have to work on within yourself before you enter a relationship so you don't impose that on other people.
Yeah. I remember when you were in that relationship, I was creating a e-learning module at work about abuse, and it was, like, recognizing it in home care settings and things, and like everything listed under emotional psychological abuse. I was like, this is what Kayla is experiencing right now.
Oh my god. It was man, it's like so when your friend's in a relationship like that, like hopefully eventually she gets out, right? Hopefully eventually she's like, "Hey girl, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to end this relationship with him," and she finds some way to communicate with you or tell you or something, or she just does it and she's like, "Hey, I've ended this relationship," and then she starts to like tell you all her experience with him. I think that you need to be very mindful to give her or him gentle reminders like, "Hey, this person is gonna come back around. They always come back around," right? Have you ever ended a
Always.
relationship and somebody didn't come back around? I mean, when it was, like, toxic and abusive, like, whether I don't know, I've
Only
experienced.
one.
Yeah.
When I was broken up with and he blocked me on everything and I've never heard from him since. Only once though. Everyone else has come around.
Right, I and that was probably for the best, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that she needs actually, like, constant gentle reminders. If she's already made her mind up, usually women, of course, like, we all know women leave relationships months before emotionally, before they actually physically leave. But when you do physically leave the relationship, you deal with the internal struggle of being alone, feeling lonely, wanting somebody there, and then you have this, like, addiction and codependency with this person. They fed you your worth even though they fed you not feeling worthy, and so I don't f I feel like you did kind of do that, like, because I did keep in contact with him shortly after I ended the relationship, and it's best to go no contact with these type of people,
Yeah,
but I
absolutely.
didn't. And and to be fair, like, he created multiple different phone numbers to try to contact me, and
It
I
was
got
hard.
oh my
He
it
made it
was
extremely hard for you.
yes, he did, and, I got a big mouth, so even if I was saying things, setting boundaries, being a little bit harsh and rigid with how I felt about leaving the relationship, it didn't matter. They just want the response. They want the response. They want the attention, whether it's negative or positive. They want you to feed their supply somehow that they need. And it's best to go no contact and just completely block these people over and over and over. I actually had to get my number changed that I've had for almost 20 years and report him to the police.
I'm proud
And
of you.
thank you, and he I don't know if he's still doing it. I heard recently from somebody that he sent a friend request. He's impersonating me on 4 different social media platforms. Would not stop. And, he even just what a couple days ago, he sent me flowers on Valentine's Day. He door dashed me flowers. It's like, "Please stop." And I didn't say stop. I think the last it's been over, like, probably a month or 2 since I've said anything to him, but yeah, I'm not gonna respond whatsoever. It's
And I
just
think that's the can be the most frustrating part as a friend of someone that is in that type of relationship is especially if you've been through it before, you know that they're only going to leave and be done when they are ready to be done. And there's
yes.
nothing you can do. You can be supportive, you can beg and plead. They're not going to end it for good until they are fully ready to. And I can tell you throughout the last part of your relationship, I was, constantly thinking about that and hoping, wondering, what is it going to take for her to be done? And just really thinking of like, how can I be supportive and be here without forcing my opinion on your relationship? There
Mhm.
are times when friends have false opinions about relationships. There's also times maybe when we share too much about our partner, and it's a fine line because it's like,
Very
okay,
true.
do I share too much about my partner and their flaws? so that my friends and family are going to hate this person, but I'm going to stay with this person. Maybe they're not abusive. Maybe they just have flaws like we all have flaws.
I'm glad you brought that
But
up.
the people that ride for you are going to be like, "Oh, you deserve so much better." And
Mhm.
we all do, but we also have to be cognizant of we all have flaws, and how much is too much sharing. You want to ask your friends for advice when you're having a difficult time in your relationship, but we do have to be mindful of, are the things I'm telling someone else going to make them hate my partner when really there is no reason to hate them.
Right, because we do tend to over-identify with each other and gas each other
Mhm.
up just a little bit too
Yeah.
much sometimes. And I've been there for sure. I shared a lot with a lot of people at work. You're with people 12 hours a day at work. They can see you go through everything with your coworkers, with your friends too, constantly sharing things I was experiencing. I mean, but I do think that when it's from an abusive standpoint, if you share things with multiple people because you feel so alone and like you're surrounded by these people and they know you and they can see a difference in your energy and your spirit and you share with what's going on with them and they all say the same exact thing, you should probably maybe listen.
Yes. I know. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I don't think I've said this on the podcast. I've been married three times. I'm in my third marriage. So first marriage was physically abusive. Second marriage we talked about last episode. Financially, he just relied on me for everything. When I was in that relationship and I went to buy a house, and I went to the loan officer, and you got to give them all your bank statements and documents and all these
Mhm.
things. And he was like, "Wait, so you work two jobs, you work full time, you work overtime at this job, you're in grad school, you pay all these bills," because he couldn't get the mortgage in his name. It had to all be in my name.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to put him on the title because we were married. And the loan officer was like, didn't know me from nobody else, and was like, "This is a horrible idea. Like, are you okay?" Like a perfect stranger asking me, "Are you okay?" Because what you're laying out in front of me does not make sense. And I took that with a grain of salt. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until probably the last year of his and I's relationship, we have employee assistance program counselors at my work. And I went to a counselor there, and I was like, "I'm just at my wit's end. I don't know what to do." And I explained the situation to her, and she was like, "You understand that this is an abusive relationship, right?" And I was like, "No." "No,
Right.
I don't understand
Right,
that."
because in your
Some
last relationship, you were, getting thrown up
It was
against a wall.
physical.
Yeah, right, and this
Right.
this relationship,
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh, well, it's not that bad. I'm not physically hurt. He
Exactly.
doesn't scream at me every day, like, he call me names, it's not that bad." Yeah, it's still bad.
It is. And it was still affecting my mental health. Maybe it wasn't physical. It was affecting my physical health
Mhm.
too, because was I was actually in the emergency room with chest pain because my anxiety was, so it was just, I wasn't being hit and thrown
Right,
against the wall and choked and things like that. So
right.
I think it is harder for people to recognize that when they've been in a previous physical abusive relationship, and then it turns into an emotional and psychological abusive relationship. It's harder to recognize. But I do
Mhm.
feel like I needed those strangers. I
Yes.
was even at a airport one time, and I literally did everything for this man. At an airport, he's just playing on his phone. I'm waiting for our baggage to come out. I'm pulling these big ass bags off the luggage thing. And he's just,
Oh,
this
boy.
woman standing next to us, never met us before, said, "Sir, is that your wife?" And he said, "Yeah." And she said, "Why is she getting your bags off of here? Why are you not helping her and you're just on your phone?" And I never met this woman before. And I was like,
Let's applaud her, whoever she was.
yes.
Did
And
I was just gonna ask you, did he ever try to come back around after you were like, "I'm done, I'm filing for divorce"? Did he after you said you were done, did he try to come back around and
so During the divorce, well, actually, the divorce was final. He still had 30 days to live in my house. It infuriates me. I had to put a lock on my bedroom door. He tried to come and be physical with me.
Ugh.
And I had to forcefully remove him from me.
Mhm.
Then later down the road, there would be like a random text of, "Oh, I miss our dog." First of all, he never did one thing to care for that dog. That's not He told me I couldn't have a dog actually for years. And then I was
Mhm.
like, "No, I'm an adult and I'm going to get a dog if I want a dog because I'm going hiking by myself because you won't go hiking with me and I
Mhm.
need someone to protect me." So he did try a little bit, but he is officially blocked now. So,
Is is this the same person that stole your gas points?
bitch, yes. That is the most recent thing, because I'd blocked him on everything. You know how when you block a really and I wouldn't even say that he didn't persistently try to reach out to me, but people will reach out to you on the strangest apps.
Yeah.
Cash App, you've had your ex
Oh,
reached out to you on financial
Venmo.
apps,
Mhm, yeah, mhm.
Venmo. My damn gas card. I had just went and spent $400 at Kroger. I knew I should have had a bunch of points to go get gas. I go like 2 days later to fill up my gas tank. I have 0 points. And I'm like, "What do you mean I have 0 points?" Luckily, the app shows you where in location your points were used. My points were used in Michigan. I don't live there. He had been using my points this whole time. At that point, we had been divorced, God, I don't know, 4, 5, 4, at least 4 years. And I was like, "So this whole time?" So that was the last communication between him and I, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Why are you still stealing from me? Like,
Right,
be a man. What the
right.
like, what?" And he's like, "I'm not stealing for you. I use that card too." Like, saying he was using the same phone number for his Kroger points, and I was like, "But why? Why would you do that? Like, get your own."
Get your own, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Girl, I can't sometimes. Like, I don't know, and it's not up to us to try to figure out why people do the things that they do that hurt us, but it is up to us to say no more. I think that and there's so much content about narcissistic abuse, but they do have a four-stage pattern that I just wanted to go over and remind everybody about because this is exactly what happened to me, and I know it's probably happened to you and everybody else out there that's been in a relationship with a narcissist. So there's the first idealization phase where they put you on a pedestal. You're the best thing that's ever happened to them. As soon as they saw you, they knew they were going to marry you. You're so much better than their ex. And then they start to devalue you. This is the second stage. They cut you down, they discard you, they tell you they can do better. And they ghost you, they break up with you, you don't hear from them, or they stonewall you, put you in a silent treatment, all those things. And then the third stage, they start to hover. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I treated you like that. It's not you, it's me. I got some things I need to work through. I'll never talk to you like that again. I don't know what I was thinking. And then it starts all over again. So, put you back on that pedestal. And that's what I experienced. I think everybody that is in an abusive relationship, and when your friends are in an abusive relationship, you need to remind them that this is the cycle that the abuser puts them through over and over and over again. It's not the first time I experienced it. This is pretty high, like the worst, I think, that I experienced this with somebody, but I've definitely experienced that in the past. Um,
Definitely. And I want to give our audience some other resources. A lot of areas do have domestic violence shelters. They are not as popular in more rural areas,
mhm.
but it is something you can look for if you feel like you do not have a place you can go to. There are so many domestic violence shelters. There is also the domestic violence hotline. It is 1-800-799-7233. If you are in a situation where your partner has control over all of your electronics, you don't feel like you could safely search or call or talk to someone or search your resources on your phone or your computer, if you can get to a local library, they have so many resources. Um, I I like to use this. A lot of times abusers don't think of, oh, they're just going to the library. They're not going to see anyone that's taking your attention away from them. Maybe you just need to go and you want to rent a book from the library. You can use that as an excuse. You can use all of their electronics there. You can use their phone. They will help you to find a safe place. Also, there is a website. It's called Women's Resource Center to End Domestic Violence. It's wrcdv.org. And they listed a couple things that we can do as a friend of someone who's in an abusive relationship. And so I'm just going to read off some of their suggestions. They do acknowledge it's not easy to always know when your loved one is in an abusive relationship, but asking questions like, are you okay? Or letting them know, I'm really concerned for your safety or your well being. Also, always listen and believe them. Don't
Mhm.
try to tell them they're wrong. Just be a listening ear. Allow them to control their own lives, and that's the hardest part, especially when you see it happening and you know that you don't have
Yes.
control and you can't just be Superman and save them. Allow them to be the one to call the police. Calling the police can be like, if I was to try to call them for you, that can actually put them sometimes in a worse situation.
Mhm.
So let them be the one to do that. And then if you can, offer them a safe place to be. If they can sleep on your couch for a week until you guys get things figured out, if you're able to do that for them, do that. But also explore their reasons for staying. So, it could be financial. Maybe the other partner, is the person that's paying for everything, and that's another form of control. And they don't see how they can get away from them. Maybe they have children together and they're scared that their children are going to get taken away from them, because a lot of abusers love to use that as a way to control that person, to say, you'll never get custody and all these things. If you're able to, you could try to help with some financial support of them. If you're not able to do that, help them to find the resources that they need.
Yes. Amen to all of that. We appreciate everybody being here with us in this safe space today and listening. And we hope to see you again next time. And we hope that you have a beautiful, wonderful week and a happy Monday. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste.